afternoon, everyone. I formally declare this Submissions Committee meeting on the 21st of September 2022 open. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this Council's decisions to be those that contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. I would like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present, and welcome any descendants here today. I would like to advise that this Submissions Committee meeting is being live streamed and recorded, including the public participation sections of the meeting. The live stream recording of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practical. By participating in open committee meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. Please note that other than an official council recording, no video or audio recording of proceedings is permitted without specific approval by resolution of the relevant meeting. The sole purpose of this Submissions Committee meeting is to hear persons who indicated they wish to speak in support of their written submission to the draft governance rules. I note that Councillor Hart is an apology for this meeting. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes from the Submissions Committee meeting held on the 15th of June 2022. Do I have a mover? Councillor Costin. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Is that to be opposed? No. All those in favour? The vote's carried 5-0. Verbal submissions who have confirmed in writing that they wish to speak to their submission will be heard prior to the consideration of each agenda item. Well, there's only one. A limit of 5 minutes will apply to each submitter. Now we move to item 8.1, Draft Governance Rules, Considerations of Submissions. The purpose of this item is to hear verbal submissions in relation to the following proposed changes to the governance rules addressing electronic attendance and participation in council meetings and delegated committee meetings by councillors and delegated committee members, and the way in which public questions and responses are recorded in the minutes of the meeting. The following submitters have requested to be heard in support of their submission: Mr James Judd in person, Mary Drackup by video conference, Prabha Kati in person, and Shaw Mulcahy on behalf of the Victorian Pride Lobby via video conference. Okay, I'll now call Mr Judd to make his submission. Mr Judd, would you like to make your verbal submission? Oh, okay. No, sorry, we weren't sure. That's fine. I'll now call on Mary Drackup to make her submission. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Having asked several questions in good faith at council meetings over the past year or so, over issues of significant public interest, I've been disappointed and frustrated to receive generally minimalist, bureaucratic and seemingly defensive or even evasive responses from staff members with no engagement of councillors around the issues I've raised. Far from satisfying my desire to understand council's position on the questions I've asked, the experience has left me feeling embarrassed and belittled and confused about the council's purpose in even inviting questions from the public. I note that others asking questions have routinely had similar treatment. Surely this is not the council's intent. I suspect councillors are not even currently made aware of questions that are submitted in this way, even though as our elected representatives, this is an important method for them to remain abreast of matters that are clearly of importance to their constituents. I note with regret that nothing in the draft rules is likely to change this approach. And I would suggest that both councillors and staff be required to engage actively in forming a full response to questions from the public, at least where these are submitted in writing some days before a meeting, and provide responses including all relevant information required to answer the question. Further, I suggest that these responses be published in full in the minutes so that the general public is informed of the council's position. I guess I really have more of a question as well than just a submission of my position, and that is, what is the purpose of the question time? Thank you.
Thank you. Do councillors have any questions? No. Thank you for your submission. I'll now call on Mr. Prabhakati, who is here in person, to make your submission.
Thank you, Mayor.
You have 5 minutes.
Sorry. Yeah. How far I proceed would largely be dependent on this, in answer to this initial question. It seems to me that quite a few of us have either got the wrong end of the stick in relation to this rule change. I was wondering if we could just get some clarification on what exactly is the scope of this rule change. How was it initiated and developed, and what is the outcome it is intended to serve? So what is the purpose behind it? And based on that, I might decide to walk out after this.
Yeah, well, it is here to hear submissions, but can you quickly answer that question?
Thank you, Mr. Cutty. So the scope of the rule change was in relation to electronic attendance and participation in council meetings.
Sorry, the one after that, the one on...
and the other one was about how public questions are minuted in the meeting.
Noted in the minutes.
So that was
it's in relation to that.
So the submissions committee today is actually considering submissions in relation to both of those items.
Okay, so in relation to the second one, what was the... I'm talking about that rule change. What was the reason for the rule change? How was it initiated? I'm trying to gauge whether... to me, it just looks such a simple word change. So I think, why are you going to just do it? So I was wondering, was there a request from the public for the change, and then you went through a process of trying to work out? So we did go through a
process last year, if you recall, and I think we had 4 workshops with councillors. We went out for public consultation on the revised rules. In
relation to this particular one?
Correct. Yes, which was to adopt the summary only in the minutes, and that was endorsed in, I think it was at the April council meeting. And then since then, with the summaries actually prepared in the minutes, I think a number of councillors and maybe constituents have felt that they would like the full responses and their full question noted in the minutes, and this is why this has come about.
Sure, and that's what I was thinking. So is the intention greater access, transparency and accountability? Is that what?
It's to revert back to how we used to minute. That's correct. The meeting, it's the public questions actually asked and responded to. So that will be a decision of council to make, but that's part of this public
right. So you can see that. I mean,
okay, Mr. Cuddy, are you going to make your submission? It's not. We're not here for question and answer time. It's actually to make a submission.
I understand.
So
Mayor
can you make a
Hanson,
decision of whether you would like to make a submission or not?
No, I won't proceed at this stage, and I'll take that in through another.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll now call on Mr. Sean Mulcahy on behalf of the Victorian Pride Lobby to make your submission.
Thank you, Mayor Hanson and councillors, for the opportunity to make this verbal submission in relation to the proposed changes to the governance rules and in support of our written submission. My name is Dr. Sean Mulcahy. I'm speaking on behalf of the Victorian Pride Lobby's Rainbow Local Government campaign. Our campaign supports and promotes the efforts of local governments to foster a culture that's inclusive, responsive and accessible to LGBTIQA+ Victorians, and provides an online space for LGBTIQA+ local government councillors, candidates and their supporters, and collaborates with pride groups across regional Victoria to increase the number of LGBTIQA+ Victorians standing for local government. Our written submission was made jointly with More Women for Local Government, which supports women candidates standing for Victorian local government elections and is a non-partisan private online community forum for over 1,200 women candidates, potential candidates, elected councillors and their supporters. MWLG aligns with the principles of the Victorian Local Government Women's Charter, which are gender equality, diversity and women's active participation and citizenship, and collaborates with and supports a range of other women's groups that advocate for representative democracy. Together, we don't support the proposed Clause 75 on requesting an approval of electronic attendance in its current form. In particular, we're concerned that approval for electronic attendance is vested in the Mayor. The officer's report states that the Mayor makes their decision in consultation with the Chief Executive Officer, not in isolation, but proposed clause 75.3 clearly states that whether a reason, that is, a reason to attend electronically, is deemed to be of appropriate seriousness or severity, will be at the discretion of the Mayor. We appreciate that, according to the officer's response, councillors have previously agreed that their default position is to hold council meetings in person. However, we're concerned that the test of appropriate seriousness or severity in order to attend a meeting online is too high. We believe that a reasonable amendment would be to state that the Mayor should act reasonably in exercising their discretion and only reject an application to attend online for significant or substantial reasons. We recently attended the Advancing Women's Leadership Summit as part of the Victorian Government's agenda to achieve 50% women councillors and mayors by 2025. And one participant told us about how she'd been diagnosed with cancer and was unable to attend meetings in person due to treatment. When she made a request to her mayor to attend electronically, she was denied. It was only when she raised this as a legal issue that she was able to attend online. The officer's response says that in considering requests to attend via electronic means of communication, the Mayor should give consideration to other relevant legislation such as the Equal Opportunity Act and the Gender Equality Act. And indeed, it might be discriminatory to reject an application to attend online on the basis of a protected attribute such as breastfeeding. However, the mention of the Gender Equality Act raises another question about whether council's undertaken a gender impact assessment when reviewing the governance rules, which is required under Section 9 of the Act, given that it has a direct and significant impact on the public. As another submission rightly points out, allowing participants to attend electronically saves travelling time for those that don't live in or near Colac and will hopefully encourage more people from all parts of the Shire to consider running for election. Inversely, these proposed changes could dissuade people who don't live in or near Colac or who have caring responsibilities, most predominantly women, from running for council, and that will only serve to reduce the diversity of councillors. We're concerned that proposed clause 75 in its current form will make meetings more inaccessible for councillors with caring responsibilities and councillors unable to attend in person due to health reasons, especially if factors arise less than 6 hours before the meeting that prevent attendance in person. In that case, the councillor cannot attend the meeting online at all. We're also concerned that approval for electronic attendance can be provided as late as 4 hours before the meeting. The officer's response doesn't address those issues, and perhaps if a gender impact assessment had been undertaken, it would have. In summary, we're concerned that proposed Clause 75 is a backward step, and we think it should be removed or at the very least amended to require that the Mayor act reasonably in exercising their discretion and only reject an application to attend online for significant or substantial reasons. Finally, it would be remiss of me not to raise another issue. In April of this year, we wrote to the CEO to ask when Council will be reviewing its flag protocol policy, which was due for review in March last year, and whether there'll be a broad community consultation around this. And we ask this because we would love for Council to fly the rainbow flag on the 17th of May next year to mark the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersex Discrimination and Transphobia. Colac Otway Shire is one of only, I think, 11 councils in the state that doesn't fly the rainbow flag on this date. So we would appreciate a response to when the flag flying protocol will be reviewed, and in particular if the review will be finalised before May of next year. Thank you for taking the time to consider our submission, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr Mulcahy? No. Thank you very much for your submission. Councillors, the officers have provided a recommendation for our consideration. Does any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this matter? Councillor Costin, no one's actually moved the motion for an amendment to be made. Are you proposing a different motion? Councillor Potter will move the motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bell, is it to be opposed? You can move that amendment now, can't you? Yeah. What's your amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add an additional point 5, which asks officers to prepare a gender impact assessment in relation to the revision of our governance rules. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that? Well, I'll just see if there's a seconder.
If I could just remind councillors, it's a commitment we made in our council plan.
Can it be is there a seconder for the amendment? No, the amendment has lapsed. You can't second it. You've seconded the motion. Okay, so we're back to the original. Councillor Potter as the mover.
Sorry, Mayor, didn't Councillor Bell just second my amendment?
He seconded the motion. He cannot second your amendment. Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Mayor, will you indulge me with a question for the CEO, just in relation to Councillor Costin's point?
Yes.
Thank you. How long would a gender impact statement or assessment of the government's rules take, roughly?
So Councillor Potter is the mover.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Look, I want to thank the submitters for their appearance online and in person today, and we had more submissions than I thought we would get. I'm pleased that we did get those submissions, and we will consider those as a group and speak to officers about that, and look forward to these amendments to the government's rules coming back to us in the future.
Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just say thank you to the submitters for your interest. I'm glad there was a bit of interest, and clearly there's been some good thought around some of the submissions, so it's really encouraging. Probably raised a few more issues within that broader thought process, which is a good thing. But yeah, that's all I have to say for this one.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Costin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to thank the submitters for their comments and input. Thank you. And I think there's a few things that, even though it might be outside the scope, there's plenty of food for thought there. But I will just draw councillors' attention to the fact that in our council plan, our last council plan, we made a commitment to prepare gender impact assessments when developing or reviewing policies, programs or services with the aim to enable more women to remain or re-enter the workforce. And I consider council as part of the workforce. Thank you.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? Right, councillors, I'll now call for a vote. All those in favour? The item's carried 5-0. Councillors, thank you, councillors. That concludes this submissions committee meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. I declare this meeting closed. Thank you.